Welcome to the Football Fun Factory podcast. I'm Luke Chadwick, joined by the legends that are James Cutting and Johnny Martin.
Intro.
Welcome.
Just trying to be nice.
Legends. I've never been called a legend before.
Well, I'm sure it'll be the first of many.
Thanks.
As people, regular viewers will know, I have been the judge for 3 weeks running. Unbelievable, I know. Chosen by the Wheel of Fate, as I've started to call it now. I'm going to give it a spin, and I hope and pray it's not me again. I'm not even going to look. You tell me, Johnny, when it comes up.
Spin
Luke
again.
Chadwick.
Spin again.
I'm spinning again. I'm not doing it again. No way. Someone else can do it. Tell me, John.
Luke
Chadwick.
Oh, it's Johnny
Martin.
In the hot seat, John.
Judge Johnny.
Right then, here we are. I am back in the judge's hot seat and I will be facilitating Judge Johnny's court, where Luke will be going head to head with James, discussing and debating a number of different points around children's football coaching. Let's
go.
get spinning. Best piece of coaching advice you've ever received?
Ooh.
Luke Chadwick.
Oh, I knew you were going to come to me first. Do you know the best bit? I don't know if I can call... No, it wouldn't be right. I was going to say something I was told as a child, but it wasn't.
No, so I think with this, guys, just to set the scene a little bit.
I've got it, John.
Top judging. Great judge.
Thanks very much, guys.
Best judge.
You know what? You both win. I think this should be around as a child or as a player.
Okay.
So the best piece of advice you received as a player.
That
really
sorted
makes
me
sense.
right out, because I'm going to carry on saying what I was going to say.
Go on,
When I
then.
was 10 years old, I'll take you back, Eternit Colts against Burwell Swallows. End of season game. If we win, Eternit Colts, we win the league.
Yeah, then what happened?
We got a penalty. The score was 0-0.
Right.
Penalty in the last minute.
Yeah.
Up steps me to take the penalty. Scored a number of goals that season. Confident of scoring. Put the ball down. It was in like a little divot. So I put it on the front of the divot. The referee told me to put it back in there. Took the penalty. Missed it.
No way.
Lost the league. Burwell Swallows were the league champions. Was in bits. Crying my eyes out. But it was like the end of the world. And I remember my mum saying to me, my dear mother, talking to me about it and sort of saying, it doesn't matter that you miss a penalty. If football makes you cry, you shouldn't play it. Because I wanted to win that much. But that bit of advice made me enjoy, go into it with a completely different mindset. And that is without doubt. I always go back, when football used to get on top of me when I was a professional player and I used to get a bit down about not playing well or the fans giving you some stick and that sort of thing, I always used to go back to that advice to my mum that said to me, you've got to enjoy. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it. And that was the best piece of advice I've ever received.
Chaddy, that was unbelievable. What a point, and great storytelling to make it, mate. JC, that is going to take some serious beating.
Do you know what, Chad? I think 3 weeks as the judge on the trot has given you the refresh and reset that you needed to come in and just absolutely. I think this could be a 3-0 today, because I'm going to concede.
No way.
I can't.
Oh,
Stop it, James. No, come on.
I just there's information and advice that I've been given over the years from coaches, but there's just nothing that could potentially trump that. Nothing that compares to Luke's story. I concede. I give him the point.
I'm not sure you're allowed to do that.
It's a first.
Give me the point then.
So, because of that, I'm going to give Luke the point. Luke, regardless whether James conceded or not, I think you were going to win anyway, because that was a fantastic point,
That's why I
well
conceded.
made, and also fantastic advice for any young children or coaches listening in. So let's spin the wheel for round 2, and I wonder who's going to win this one.
Good spin, Johnny.
Thanks, mate. Ooh. It's the same question.
No.
Oh my God.
What's happening? What's happened to the spinner?
Cool. Right. This question is the most enjoyable age to coach. James Cutting, you're up first.
Like under fives, just the enthusiasm and energy that you get. I love our TOTS program. We coach children as young as 18 months, and you just stand there laughing. I think once you become really comfortable with that age group, sometimes people have a real fear and anxiety around coaching toddlers. Of course, at Football Fun Factory, we have the inflatable football pitch, and that helps. But the fearlessness, the lack of fear, all the bad things that creep into the game. I think one of the best ones actually is how boys and girls play together, and there's not a single boy inside the pitch thinking, or a girl inside the pitch thinking, that the opposite gender shouldn't be there. So I think it starts to creep in maybe from 7, 8, 9 years old, where there might be the odd kid or odd parent that's thinking, oh, maybe boys and girls shouldn't play in the same team and all those kind of things. It's not even a consideration at 2 years old. There's boys and girls inside the pitch. None of the coaches, none of the parents, none of the kids think that. It's an environment where everyone's welcome. It's the most inclusive environment you could ever have. So the most enjoyable age group for me to coach is definitely Tots Football Fun from 18 months to 5 years old.
Very good. Very good.
That is a really, really good answer. I think probably 7, 8 years ago when I started my coaching journey and you answered that way, I would have thought, that is a crazy answer. How can you enjoy that? And something when I started my journey with the Football Fun Factory and done it for the first time was something that really scared me of how to do it, but it turned out to be the most enjoyable session that I've ever delivered, those real young ones. But obviously, I can't answer the same as you. So I would say probably sort of under 7s going in. And again, I wouldn't have said this at the start of my journey. It was all about development. It was about under 16s, under 18s, and sort of real elite football, trying to get them to become professionals. But I've come away from that and found so much more enjoyment in the early stages of a child's development, and being able to sort of be there for their first games, the first organised games when they're under 7s, under 6s, whatever it is. I think that would be seeing that and being part of that, and that sort of responsibility of being a child's first football coach or one of their first football coaches, and the sort of what you do in that period of time is there in their journey forever, and that's your responsibility. Can help them fall in love with football for the rest of their lives. So I would have answered the TOTS program as well, but I think I go a little bit older, sort of under 6, under 7, when they're just starting the fixtures and the excitement on their face when they go into them.
Do you think the negative side of the older age group influences your decision? So obviously the question is about the most enjoyable age group. And do you think that you then enjoy the younger age group because of there's sometimes a lack of enjoyment? Because obviously you know all about the pathway, how serious it gets at 16, trying to get a scholar within a professional club, or even to the point where, and we can say it because we all did the same, that when you become a 14, 15, 16-year-old lad, you're a bit of a different character to what you were when you were 7, 8, 9 years old. But do you think that it's more enjoyable at the younger age group because of the negatives of the older age groups?
I'm not sure with the negatives. I mean, what I sort of loved about coaching older children, sort of, turning into adults and that sort of thing, was probably not the football side of it, but how you could sort of support them as human beings. I remember when I was 14, 15, 16, it was a brilliant time, but also a tough time as well in terms of what you go through at school, everything like that, and football being a big part of your life. So being part of their journey was, I think it's more the freedom of a coach. I think what I really had struggles with was maybe having people looking over your shoulder saying you've got to get that coaching point out, you've got to challenge this individual more, and it turns into being about the 1 or 2 that are perceived super talented that could go on and become a professional footballer. Whereas in them youngest age groups and the coaching that I've done at the Football Fun Factory was all about every child, and it wasn't about getting loads of coaching points across. It was about every one of them leaving the inflatable pitch or leaving the AstroTurf with a big smile on their face. And I think just that as a coach is the most rewarding thing you can have, because more important than anything else, they've had a good experience and a positive experience.
If you just look at the types of sessions that are going to be run, whether it's for the players, their parents watching the sessions or matches, whatever, and then also the coach delivering it, if you got 2 examples, one's defending set pieces and one's like playing a tag game, then in that scenario, it's just going to be more fun and enjoyable, isn't it? So it's going to be the younger you go for me. And that's why I do think that the 18 months to 5 years old just does trump the under 7s, just because it is just that bit more fun, that bit more freedom, and all the benefits that you get from under 7s through to under 16s and sliding down the scale. If you go even younger, there's more freedom. And from a personal point of view, more fun, just because you see really funny stuff during the session
of course, yeah.
as well.
So, I think we're probably all in agreement that James is, quite rightly said, the most enjoyable age. I think, Luke, you openly said if you went first, you would have said under 5s. And I think for me, when I look back to my coaching, my journey, my experiences, it has to be 5 and below, just because it's so enjoyable, isn't it? For all the reasons that you said, the smiles on faces, the being their first coach, seeing those early childhood football experiences sort of unfold. So, James, congratulations.
Excuse me, can I say something? It's really important before we move on. Your gown is slipped right. That's really off-putting. Do you mind pulling it up?
Absolutely not. This is how I wear it.
I really don't like it.
Unlucky. For anyone listening on Spotify or Apple, you can head over to the YouTube and you can see my gown.
Please don't
slip down. So James, 1-1. Very good. We're going into the last round and it's a decider.
Exciting stuff.
Woo!
That was a big spin.
Oh, what a spin.
The most important quality in a coach. I think we've had this one.
Pretty sure that.
Guys, I think we've had this one before. And Ollie Kane has forgot to wipe it and replace it on the board. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it slightly.
Yep.
Pretend like it never happened. And we're going to go with the next one, which is top tip for grassroots football parents.
Oh, that's a nice one.
Great question. Luke Chadwick, go.
Top tip. So the question is for advice.
The question is what I've just said.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Top tip
I think it's
for
quite clear.
grassroots
I think it's quite
football
clear.
parents.
I generally don't understand it. So my top tip for parents is to let your children enjoy football. Now, when my eldest son is now 22 years old. I know you wouldn't believe it looking at me. I don't look like I'm old enough to have a son that age. No, I do.
No, sorry, I just coughed.
No, thank you. And when he first started playing football, he would have been probably 6 years old, and I was an awful football parent. Like, I was still playing professional football myself, and in my mind, my sort of ego thought, because he was my son, he should be the best player, he should work harder than everyone else. And I used to tell him that, sort of shout on the side of the football pitch to him to work harder and that sort of thing. And within about 6 weeks of him starting his football journey, he didn't want me to take him anymore. And that was absolutely heartbreaking. And this is before I had any coach education. Obviously, it was completely wrong. And from that moment on, all I ever spoke to him about was enjoying it. Did he have fun? And that is the most important thing. And I learned that by your own son not wanting to take him to football. That was something that we'd grown up together, him coming to watch me play, us playing in the garden with his brother and his mum, and that was what we absolutely loved doing. So for me to taint his experience in them early days is something that I'll always have that in my mind. And to this day now, as him being a professional footballer, all I ever speak to him about is I'll offer him advice if he wants it, but it's about enjoyment. It's about going there and having fun, even as a 22-year-old man, because that is what the game takes. And if you love it and you're doing that, you've got every opportunity to get as far as you can, but more importantly, not fall out of love with a game.
Very good. Great answer. Great story to back it up.
Cool.
James Cutting?
Can't disagree with that at all. I always think that the best top tips are the ones that have a real how behind them. So mine's got a level of detail to it in terms of what to do, or in fact, what not to do. So my top tip for grassroots football parents would be to say nothing and applaud. So so you may have seen that there's a silent football weekend that the FA champion, and like an initiative where for that weekend all the parents on the sideline, all they do is clap, cheer, and and give that sort of positive reinforcement from the sidelines. What it stops in that scenario is then shouting, giving instruction. That instruction obviously could contradict the instruction from the coach and things like that. So my top tip is to them just to say nothing, to applaud and allow the children that freedom to then go and express themselves on the football pitch, because there's so much negativity that comes from the sidelines. Quite often, not with that intention. I don't believe that coaches or parents turn up on the sideline and have a plan in their mind to be negative towards the children on the pitch. But I think by staying silent and applauding, I think that's a great top tip, and it's something that quite often happens within academy football, and it's a real positive and quite a contrast between that environment and then a grassroots environment, I think.
Cool. Very good point. Well made. I don't think you can really disagree with either of those, but Luke, do you want to put James on the stand and ask him any questions to delve a little bit deeper?
I'll have a go. I'll have a little go. So obviously, like you said, just applaud. So that is obviously just while you're watching your son or daughter play football at the side of the pitch. Like in general, obviously, top tip, is that just it? Just clap at the side of the pitch.
Just stay silent and applaud. Yeah, I think sometimes the most simple instructions are the best. So I think that if it just stops the negativity, and I think if you then blur the lines a little bit and say that, we only want to be positive from the sidelines, then how people interpret that. So when they do that silent football weekend and the parents are silent on the sidelines, I think it's just a real positive and creates a better environment.
And do you think it does do that though? Because obviously they've had this initiative before, it happens quite a lot, and when you speak to parents about it, they're like, what the heck's this all about? Why have we got to do this? Our children playing, and sometimes it could potentially make things worse in terms of the journey home or the aftermath, because they've been holding everything in sort of during the game, and then it gets to the car journey home saying, you should have done this, you should have done that. Could do.
I think that it's probably quite anecdotal just in terms of one parent might say that, but unless you've got any hard stats to hit me with, Luke, of 86% of parents said that it's a negative and things like that.
John, can you allow me to share my screen on the presentation?
To be fair, I put a post out in a children's football coaching group that I've got and that we have at the Football Fun Factory, and asked for people's opinion, and it was quite negative.
About the silent football,
yeah. About the silent football, yeah. But I have then seen in academy football, and I think what you're sort of getting at, and not putting words in your mouth, but that's like the extreme, isn't it? That's to try and then stamp out any negative and the temptation then, because if you are then calling out, even if you say only call out positive stuff, parents then lose their inhibitions, and they take a mile. So I get sort of where you're coming from in go to the extreme, because in academy football, more often than not, that is the best environment that I've seen for the children, because the parents just clap, cheer, applaud, say well done, and that tends to be it from my experiences.
So with that though, do you think that is a true reflection of, like in academy football? I know exactly what you mean, but in my mind, or speaking to some parents, it's like because it's so different from grassroots football, and it's like a fear factor. If they do sort of shout out and that sort of thing, it might affect their child's journey within the academy. And then there's a lot more that goes on before or after, while they're not in the club and sort of playing in the games.
Yeah, it's so difficult, isn't it? Ultimately, the answer is, if we could, well, I don't know what the answer is, but the outcome is if we can create a positive environment for children to go to football no matter where it is, and play without pressure, to have fun, to play with a smile on their face, the country would produce tons more talented players and have so many more children come through and still be involved in sport later on, whether they're talented or not. The way in getting to that, the problem is it isn't just at football, is it? It isn't just at the game. It is then the car ride home. It is then the way to training. It is the pressure then gets put on families and children at home if they are then silent at a game, because they then take that home with them and it's all pent up. So I think it's really difficult. I don't think there is an answer. I think it's probably one of the things that I go to when I think about football being a broken industry and a broken game at times, because hit the microphone. Apologies for anyone listening on audio, but I think there are a number of things that there aren't an obvious answer, and the FA are trying their best to find solutions, but it's like the trade-off, isn't it? And the benefits and the drawbacks to it, and I think that is one of them.
It is more or less impossible, isn't it? Because obviously we're not in a position to tell anyone how to parent their own children, and parents 99.9% of the time want the absolute best for their children, but at times what they perceive as being the best course of action a lot of the time isn't. But then it's so hard to educate and tell people that, because it's the most important people in your whole life, isn't it? Your children. You want the very best for them, and some people think, like I did, I've got to really push him to get there, but understanding really quickly that was a completely wrong way of going about it.
Yeah, and everyone's different, and that's what makes it so difficult, because you'll get some parents that say, oh, my son or daughter will respond better to this and they need this, and there isn't one shoe or one size fits all. Because
what would you two do? So if you were, you got a 5-year-old and they're going to go or 7-year-old and they're going to go and play in a team, and you're the parents on the side of the pitch now, and how would you react on the side of the pitch? Would you stay silent and clap and applaud? Would you offer advice? Would you shout and scream?
So what I don't say a word. Like, I just watch the game, enjoy the game. Sort of, I probably don't enjoy it as much now they're older, turning into adults, because obviously you know that there's more pressure and that sort of thing. But I just watch the game quietly. I don't shout on the pitch, and then I'll ask them after the game if did they enjoy it, and then if they want to speak about certain parts of the game, then I'm more than happy to speak about it with them.
Obviously, I've got a little one on the way, and when I think about taking them to football, taking them to whatever sport, if they obviously want to and they enjoy that, I think that I will aim to applaud, say well done from the sideline, but that's it.
So just in terms of the point, does that not back up? So you're saying that you would say nothing and applaud. You're saying you'd say nothing and applaud. As am I. That's my point. Because obviously he gets the point this week.
Yeah, my story.
It was a great story.
It was a great story, but because he's just set us up and knocked us out the park, James Cutting, I'm going to award you the third and final point.
That is a complete popularity contest. If you don't like me, guys, just don't like come anymore.
In that case, I don't like you. Don't come
That's
anymore.
the end of the podcast, guys. The 36th and final episode.
2 incredibly valid points, 2 great points, but just because, as I say, you set us up and knocked us out of the park, JC, you're going to be this week's winner. Congratulations.
Does it officially count, though, if you don't wear the outfit correctly?
Get half a point.
Okay.
What are you trying to say, Luke?
I want you to put the gown on properly.
Well, that's this week's podcast. Done and dusted with. No, it's not, because we've got everybody's favourite part of the podcast.
You forget.
It was a setup.
It's
all part of the script. We're going to go now.
Tell me about script.
We're now going to go to everyone's favourite part of the podcast, Chaddy's quickfire questions.
What did James's questions if he always wins when we do the...
That's right. You have your moment.
Chaddy's quickfire questions. Great chat, guys. But now we have Chaddy's quickfire questions. James, you got a question for Chaddy?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you your opinion on shin pads, Luke.
Shin pads?
Shin pads, yeah. So, nowadays, stay with me. Nowadays, they're just like tiny, aren't they? So I remember like pulling on a pair of shin pads and it's like it covered your shin. Like that's the whole point, right? And yeah, they're a bit uncomfortable and clunky, but didn't really affect. They might hit the bottom of your shin pad and bobble off every now and again. But you see like some Premier League players nowadays, and they got these tiny little shin pads. Is it safe? Our top priority at Football Fun Factory, safety, fun development. What do you think of the modern day shin pad?
Yeah, it was an interesting question, to be fair. I've got quite a strange relationship with shin pads throughout my football career. So early on, as a child,
if there was ever a hook for a short form video, I've got quite a strange relationship with shin pads.
So when I was a kid, I used to wear, the big ones that covered the ankles. And then when I went up to start playing football full time at Manchester, all the lads used to have these sort of smaller ones. You put a bit of tubey grip underneath, put the shin pad in, pull the socks up. I don't know how they did it, but theirs always stayed in place for the whole time. Mine always used to slip right down. And at the end of my career now, people ask me and said, when you used to play, how come you didn't wear shin pads? So I don't know, I did have them on, but they were obviously slipped around. They didn't look like I was wearing them. So I think I started the craze now with these tiny shin pads. Yeah, for me, I don't think it's that much of an issue. If you get kicked in the shin. It's quite a hard bit of the leg. I don't think shin pads offer a huge amount of protection when you're playing at that top level. I think a lot of it is for the look, what it looks like. I think it looks pretty cool when they've got them tiny shin pads, but I don't think it's something that is advisable in young children.
Do you think you can play the game without shin pads nowadays? Because you also look at it and go, well, I think if you gave players the choice, I think they'd choose not to wear them at all.
Yeah, 100%. I would have chose not to wear them. Obviously, every day in training, I never wore shin pads. Never sort of. You get kicks. You get that anyway without them. You see, like you mentioned, the shin pads that are worn now. You can't imagine that they offer much protection at all. Really, about that size. So, for me, kids, yes, obviously you need safety is the most important thing, but as you get older you make your own choices, and as an adult player I would choose never to wear shin pads. I had a really good discussion about shin pads. I enjoyed that.
It really surprised me how well it went.
To add on that?
Nothing about shin pads. My question this week is, throughout your playing career, Chad, did anyone, either you or other players, have any mad sort of pre-game like superstitions or anything that they did, put the left sock on before the right, anything bizarre like that?
That is mad.
Yeah, so me personally...
Always right before left. It's crazy.
I've never had any superstition. I think I mentioned it before. When I was younger, I used to have superstitions with what I ate before the game after reading it in, I think it was either Shoot or Match magazine, that Alan Shearer used to have chicken and beans before a game. So I used to have that before going. And also, I used to get my mum to buy me the cereal Lucky Charms. So I have a bowl of Lucky Charms as well to see. But other than that, nothing weird that I ever done. But no, I think a lot of players do have a lot of rituals in terms of what you allude to there, with putting a certain boot on first, putting a certain sock on first. But me, I used to play equally as bad, whatever I did, so it was absolutely fine.
Cool, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time and for the fantastic debates, and obviously the amazing insights and opinions on shin pads, because that was a highlight.
Favourite bit for me.
And we look forward to seeing any viewers again in the future.